Somewhere right now, someone is being talked about behind their back. Someone is being mocked online by strangers who will forget their name in 5 minutes. Someone is watching a friend succeed and feeling the quiet poison of comparison creep into their chest. And in that exact moment, there are two kinds of people in this world. One person absorbs it, carries it home, replays it at 2 a.m., lets it decide their mood, their worth, their entire day. The other person feels it too, because they're human, but it doesn't stick. It touches them and slides right off like rain on stone. The difference between these two people isn't luck. It isn't personality. It isn't even confidence. It's training. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sat in a war tent, surrounded by enemies, betrayal, and a body slowly failing him, and he wrote himself a private note that still cuts through the noise today. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That man was Marcus Aurelius, and what he discovered in that tent is the exact thing you're about to learn. Because by the end of this video, you will understand 7 specific mental habits, not theories, not vague advice, but real, practical shifts that will make you almost impossible to shake. The kind of person insults bounce off of. The kind of person chaos doesn't control. The kind of person who walks through a room full of judgment and simply doesn't flinch. Stay until the end, because habit number 5 is the one most people get completely backwards, and it's the one that changes everything. Welcome back to Wisdom of the Stoics, the home for anyone who's tired of being controlled by things they can't control. Here we take the oldest, most battle-tested philosophy in human history, Stoicism, and we translate it into something you can actually use today. Not dusty theory, not academic lectures, real tools built by men who faced exile, war, betrayal, and death, and came out the other side unshaken. This is ancient wisdom for the modern mind. If that sounds like something you need right now, hit subscribe before we go any further, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you move through the world for the rest of your life. Let's begin. Before we get into the 7 habits, I need you to understand why negativity affects you in the first place. Because most people try to fix the symptom without ever touching the cause. Here's the truth. Negativity doesn't hurt you. Your reaction to negativity hurts you. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Eleanor. Eleanor is a graphic designer, talented, hardworking, kind to everyone she meets. One afternoon, her manager sends feedback on a project she poured 3 weeks into. The email is blunt, almost cold. It says the work doesn't hit the mark and needs to be redone. Elena reads it once. Her stomach drops. She reads it again. Her hands start to shake slightly. By the 3rd read, she's not just sad, she's spiraling. Maybe I'm not good enough for this job. Maybe everyone secretly thinks my work is mediocre. Maybe I've been fooling myself this whole time. None of those thoughts were in the email. Her manager wrote 4 sentences about a project. Elena's mind wrote an entire tragedy about her worth as a human being. This is what Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery, and later became one of history's greatest philosophers, meant when he said, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." The email was neutral. Elena's interpretation was the poison. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. This happens to almost all of us, almost every single day. A comment, a look, a tone of voice. Our mind takes a small, ambiguous event and turns it into a verdict on our entire worth. We don't just feel hurt. We build a whole courtroom in our head, appoint ourselves the accused, and hand down a guilty verdict before lunch. The good news: if your mind built that courtroom, your mind can also tear it down. That's what the next 7 habits are going to teach you how to do. Quick question before we move forward. Have you ever replayed a small comment someone made for hours, even days after it happened? Drop a comment below with just the word yes if that's you. I promise you are far from alone, and by the end of this video you'll have real tools to stop it. The first habit is the foundation everything else is built on. Without this one, the other 6 won't work. Epictetus taught his students a single, brutally simple sentence. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. That's it. That's the whole habit. But living it is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Here's how it works in practice. Every single day, dozens of things happen to you that fall into two categories. Category 1, things you control, your effort, your attitude, your choices, your response. Category 2, things you don't control, other people's opinions, the economy, traffic, whether someone likes your Instagram post, whether your boss is in a bad mood. Unbothered people have trained themselves to instantly sort every situation into one of these two buckets. And here's the key. They stop spending energy on bucket 2 entirely. Let me tell you about James. James spent 11 years managing a retail store. Every single week, without fail, at least one customer would scream at him over something completely outside his control. A price increase from corporate, a delayed shipment, a policy he didn't write. For his first 6 years, James took every outburst personally. He'd go home replaying the confrontation, defending himself in imaginary arguments, losing sleep over strangers he'd never see again. Then a co-worker handed him a worn paperback of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. One line stopped him cold. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. James started asking himself one question every time someone raised their voice at him. Is this mine to control? The customer's anger? Not his. His own response, his tone, his choice to stay calm. Entirely his. Within a month, something shifted. The same outburst happened. The same unfair complaints. But James noticed the sting was gone. He wasn't suppressing his emotions. He genuinely stopped taking ownership of things that were never his to own in the first place. This is the core engine of becoming unbothered. Not numbness, not pretending you don't care. It's precision, caring intensely about what's yours, and releasing your grip completely on what isn't. Try this today. The next time something upsets you, pause and silently ask, is this within my control? If it isn't, you're allowed to let it go, not because it doesn't matter, but because your energy is too valuable to spend on things you cannot change. The second habit is one Marcus Aurelius used almost daily as an emperor drowning in political pressure, war, and public criticism. The Stoics called it the view from above. Here's the exercise. When something feels overwhelming, a harsh comment, a public embarrassment, a mistake you can't stop replaying, you mentally zoom out. Imagine looking down at yourself from above the room, then higher, above the building, then higher still, above the city, the country, the entire spinning planet. Marcus Aurelius wrote it like this: consider the whole universe, and how small a part of it is concerned with you. This isn't about making yourself feel insignificant in a depressing way. It's the opposite. It's liberating, because when you zoom out far enough, you realize that the co-worker's snide comment, the stranger's rude glance, the follower who unfollowed you, none of it carries the cosmic weight your anxious mind assigns to it in the moment. Marco, a construction supervisor and one of the most grounded men I've ever heard about, used a version of this technique without even knowing its philosophical name. Whenever a client screamed at him over a delay, he'd quietly picture the job site from a bird's-eye view, then the neighborhood, then the whole city skyline. By the time his mental camera reached the clouds, the man's voice, still yelling 2 feet away, had lost almost all its power over him. It's still loud, Marco once said, but it's not big anymore. That's the shift. Not silence, perspective. Try this the next time your chest tightens over something small. Zoom out. Picture the moment from far above. Ask yourself honestly, will this matter in 5 years? 5 months? Sometimes. Will it even matter 5 hours from now? Most of the time, the answer sets you free instantly. The third habit sounds almost impossible when you first hear it, until you understand what it's really asking of you. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate. Not tolerating what happens to you, not merely accepting it, loving it. Seneca, a man who was exiled, nearly executed, and eventually forced to end his own life by a tyrant he once mentored, wrote, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, life is going to happen to you regardless of how you feel about it. You can fight it, resist it, resent it, and be dragged through it, kicking and screaming. Or you can turn toward it, even the painful parts, and say, "This too has something for me." This doesn't mean pretending bad things are good. It means refusing to waste your one life fighting a war against reality itself. Eleanor, from earlier in this video, eventually redid that project her manager criticized. And this time, she didn't do it from a place of shame. She did it out of curiosity. What is this feedback actually trying to teach me? The second version of her design was better, genuinely better, her manager noticed. 6 months later, Eleanor was leading that same project's next phase. The criticism that once felt like a verdict on her worth became, in hindsight, one of the most useful moments of her career. Not because the criticism was gentle, it wasn't, but because she eventually chose to love what happened instead of resenting it. This is where negativity truly loses its grip on you. Once you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can this make of me?" you become almost impossible to defeat, because there's no outcome left that can actually break you. Every setback becomes raw material. If this idea is landing with you, this is exactly the kind of shift we explore every week here on Wisdom of the Stoics. So if you haven't already, now's a good moment to hit that subscribe button, because the next habit builds directly on this one. Most people think unshakable people got that way by avoiding pain. The truth is the opposite. Unshakable people got that way by rehearsing pain on their own terms, ahead of time. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Each morning they would briefly imagine what could go wrong that day, not to spiral into anxiety, but to strip the sting out of the unexpected before it arrived. Seneca advised, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Here's how this looks in real life. Before a difficult meeting, you spend 60 seconds imagining the worst version of it. Someone dismisses your idea, someone challenges you publicly, someone stays silent when you expected support. You picture it clearly, and then you ask yourself, if that happens, can I survive it? The answer is almost always yes. James used this exact technique before every difficult shift at the store. Each morning before opening, he'd sit in his car for 2 minutes and imagine the worst customer interaction he might face that day. He'd picture the anger, the unfair accusations, even mentally rehearse staying calm through it. By the time an actual difficult customer showed up, James had already lived through a version of it in his mind. The real moment felt almost anticlimactic, not because nothing happened, but because nothing happened that his mind hadn't already prepared for. This is the opposite of pessimism. Pessimism expects the worst and feels sorry for itself in advance. Premeditation expects the worst and builds strength in advance. One weakens you, the other arms you. Try this tomorrow morning. Before you start your day, spend just 1 minute imagining a challenge you might face. An argument, a criticism, a disappointment. Don't dwell on it. Just meet it once, calmly, in your imagination. You'll be amazed at how much smaller it feels when it actually arrives. This is the habit I promised you at the start of this video, the one most people misunderstand completely, and once you fix it, everything else clicks into place. Most people believe becoming unbothered means feeling less, suppressing emotion, building walls, turning yourself into stone so nothing can reach you anymore. The Stoics believed almost the exact opposite. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world at the time, wept openly for his lost children. Seneca wrote entire letters about grief, comforting friends who had lost loved ones, never once telling them to stop feeling. These were not emotionless men. They were precisely emotional men. The actual Stoic habit is this: feel everything fully, then choose what you do next. Here's why this matters so much. When you suppress emotion, it doesn't disappear. It goes underground and comes out sideways. As anxiety, as sudden anger, as exhaustion you can't explain. Suppression makes you more fragile over time, not less, because you're spending enormous energy holding a door shut against your own feelings. Genuine unshakability isn't the absence of feeling. It's the presence of choice after the feeling. Elena didn't become unbothered by pretending that harsh email didn't sting. It did sting. She told a friend it stung for a full day. But she let herself feel that sting completely, without judging herself for feeling it. And then she made a decision about what to do with it. That's the entire difference. So if you've been trying to not care about things that genuinely hurt and finding that it isn't working, that's because it was never supposed to work that way. The goal was never to stop caring. The goal is to feel it fully. Let it move through you like weather, and then choose your next action from a place of clarity, not from the emotion itself. This single reframe is often the moment everything changes for people. If it just changed something for you, tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and I'd genuinely love to know which of these 7 habits is hitting hardest for you so far. Marcus Aurelius had a phrase for a place: inside every person that no outside force can ever touch, no matter what happens to the body or the circumstances around it. He called it the inner citadel. Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Think of it like a fortress at the center of who you are. Outside the walls, storms rage, criticism, rejection, chaos, loss. But inside those walls is a room untouched by any of it, if you choose to build it and defend it. Most people never build this room. They live entirely outside the walls, exposed to every gust of wind, every stranger's opinion, every bad headline. No wonder they feel constantly bothered. They've never had anywhere to retreat to. Marco described something like this from his years on construction sites, amid deadlines, arguing subcontractors, and furious clients. He said there was a place he'd go in his mind, not physically anywhere, just a kind of stillness he'd trained himself to access. It's like there's a version of me standing at the center of all the noise, he said, and nothing out there can actually get to him. You build this inner citadel the same way you build physical strength, through repetition. Every time you practice the dichotomy of control, every time you zoom out with the view from above, every time you meet adversity through premeditation, you're laying another brick in that inner wall. It doesn't appear overnight, but brick by brick, day by day, it becomes real, and it becomes yours, permanently. No one can ever take it from you, because no one else knows the way in. The final habit is the one the Stoics considered the most powerful of all, and it starts with 2 Latin words, memento mori. Remember, you will die. I know how that sounds, but stay with me, because this is not meant to be morbid. It's meant to be the single most clarifying thought a human being can have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Here's what this does to negativity. Imagine for a moment that you knew you had exactly 1 year left. Would you spend it agonizing over a stranger's comment online? Would you spend it replaying an awkward conversation from 3 weeks ago? Would you let a co-worker's bad mood determine your entire afternoon? Of course not. Death, or more precisely the honest acknowledgement of it, instantly sorts your priorities with brutal clarity. It burns away everything that doesn't matter and leaves only what does. This is why the Stoics kept death close, not as fear, but as a compass. Every time Marcus Aurelius felt consumed by political betrayal or public criticism, he'd return to this thought. Not to feel hopeless, but to feel free. Free from the tyranny of small things pretending to be big things. Elena keeps a small note on her desk now. It simply says, "Will this matter in the time I have left?" She told a friend that most days, the answer is no, and that answer alone dissolves more anxiety in 5 seconds than an hour of worrying ever could. This is the final piece. Not because life is short in a sad way, but because life is short in a precious way, and precious things don't deserve to be spent on things that don't matter. Let's bring these 7 habits together, because on their own they're powerful, but together they form something much stronger, an entire operating system for moving through the world unshaken. You start with the dichotomy of control, sorting what's yours from what isn't. You use the view from above to shrink problems back down to their true size. You practice amor fati, choosing to work with life instead of resenting it. You use premeditation of adversity to meet hardship before it arrives, disarmed of its shock. You feel fully, then choose, refusing to become numb or fragile. You build your inner citadel brick by brick, a place nothing outside you can ever reach. And you carry memento mori quietly in your back pocket, a reminder that keeps everything small in its proper place. None of this happens overnight. Marcus Aurelius didn't become unshakable by reading a book once. He wrote these reminders to himself in his private journal, day after day for years. Because becoming unbothered isn't a single decision. It's a practice you return to for the rest of your life. But here's the beautiful part. Every single time you practice even one of these 7 habits, you get a little stronger, a little steadier, a little less controlled by things that were never worth your peace in the first place. Elena still gets hard feedback. James still meets difficult people. Marco still faces impossible deadlines. None of them became untouchable by life. They became something better, unshaken by it. That's available to you too. Not someday, starting today with the very next difficult moment you face. So here's what I want you to do. Pick just one of these 7 habits.